Well, let's learn a little bit about the band. We've actually got Angus here on the phone, so we're going to patch him through now and say hello to Angus.
Yo.
We have you. Excellent. Okay. All right, here we go. We have Angus finally online. Thanks so much for your patience there. So Angus, you're actually down there in Seattle right now. This is the first great tour. Is it the first main North American tour for the group?
Yeah, we've been here a couple of times supporting some bands, but yeah, we're in Seattle now. I just ran back into the hotel to get my jacket because it's kind of cold, and yeah, here we are.
Cold and drizzly down there.
Yeah, I heard the clouds, they get stuck behind the mountains here, and it makes this place not so good for the weather, but it's a pretty beautiful place. I like it.
Yeah, here on the Pacific Northwest, and of course Seattle has a great heritage of fantastic music, and listeners would probably, especially listeners in Vancouver, may not know what it might be like in the northern beaches of Sydney, where yourself and your sister Julia grew up and formed the act. Could you sort of describe what it's like there in the northern beaches for the listeners here in the rainy Northwest?
Well, it's a bunch of small towns out on a peninsula. So you have the boats and sailing on one side, and on the other you have, or you're surfing and just hanging out. And it's a pretty cool little place. The music, it's kind of hard to get into the city to play music because there's not much public transport. But it's a pretty cool place.
And so yourself and Julia started out doing some open mics around that area, and then sort of made your way into the city before your EPs were recorded?
Yeah, we used to just sort of kick around and wherever we sort of could, like we'd play at like random weddings and just holes in the wall, just here and there, just to start off, and then we started heading in further to the city, and we recorded our EP, and then we shot over to London and lived for a couple of years, and it all just started happening. We started getting really amazing invitations to cross the globe, and we took them up. Yeah,
and being great ambassadors for Australian music and for a really beautiful, delicate sound of music that often is underrepresented by Australia, because a lot of listeners, a lot of the music that is played on this show has a hard edge, and Australia's got a big rock and roll sort of history, but we're seeing groups like yourself coming through more these days with a beautiful, delicate sound that listeners are really picking up on.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. And especially, have you found, where have you found sort of the most positive response you've had, like in Europe? I see you've spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, we're kicking off to Europe in about a month. We sort of finish up in, I think it's New York here, and then fly off to Switzerland, which should be pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Julia here. Do you want to speak to the devil herself?
Oh, well, that would be great. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Angus. Yeah.
There she is.
So,
hello, Matthew.
Hello, Julia. Thanks for your patience with the little hiccups getting on air before, but we're finally here. We've played Big Jet Plane for the listeners, which
great.
is and now, is it true this went to #1 on the ARIA charts, or the album, right?
Yes, yeah, it did. I don't know which one or how or when, but that's what I've been told.
Yeah, and for Canadian listeners here, so that's the Australian record industry, it's the charts. So Angus and Julia Stone, Big Jet Plane, and the album Down the Way has, pretty much gone to #1, and touring extensively on the back of that. And how has that been going, just the momentum?
It's been really good. It feels like we've been touring for a while now, for a few years. So, we've always enjoyed it, and it's been great. The last little run of shows has been really fun. We had an amazing crew on the Australian tour, and then we've picked up a really cool crew over here for the US tour, and everyone's really, it feels like being on the road with the travelling family.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice, and we get to see so many great places and meet really wonderful people that it never ceases to amaze me how welcoming people are to total strangers, you know, that people will cook you meals and make you cups of tea, and, you know, especially places like Whole Foods.
Oh, yeah.
we don't have that in Australia. It's very, very nice.
It is, like, I've been doing this show for a little while, and often people say, well, what is the big, you know, they're so similar, Canada and Australia, you know, or North America, but no, they're still a long way away, and we grow up with different cultural influences. I was talking to Angus about the northern beaches of Sydney. Couldn't be further away from drizzly Seattle where you are now. And it must be fun to be sort of a representative of that sort of culture, you know, wherever you go.
Yeah, I mean, we're really happy about where we grew up. It was such a nice life in a way. It was just like very slow paced, and everybody kind of hangs out and hangs at the beach, and you know, and our dad is kind of he's a musician that plays in his own band, but he also just always had jam sessions around at our house. So it was nice. We grew up in an environment of music and sort of nature. So it was good. And I think that everywhere you go, I think everybody is kind of looking for that, even in the cities, you know, and you can find that within the city anywhere, you know. It's like, I mean, we haven't spent a lot of time here in Seattle yet, but I'm sure we'll find the gang that want to make music and hang out.
Well, and there's plenty of them. I was down there on the weekend actually for a gig, and of course Seattle has this great legacy of rich rock and roll music, and Australia's made little inroads. Like I don't know if you're aware, but UMI, they have a big following there. There was a mini festival devoted to that, the Australian band UMI, in Seattle last year. So Australians have
really?
Yeah, believe it or not, there's a cover band there that's completely a UMI cover band, and they had a little festival. I thought it was a curiosity. So
wow, there you go. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, so
very cool.
So Angus and Julia Stone, the next wave of fresh Australians.
So we should do the rock set tonight.